how do we empower ourselves as spiritual beings and beings that love self-awareness and evolving ourselves to become better, going into our path of exploration and growing. One of the ways that we're being called, I think, to grow as human beings is to make sure and understand what is true for us and what isn't true for us, to work on our discernment. And one of the ways we can do that is to let go of the idea of gurus in our society, let go of the idea that somebody, some human being holds the answer to every one of our questions, that whatever they say, whatever they do is the truth, and we have to hold it as truth, and we have to follow it no matter what. And this is still prevalent in our society. To me, it's a little bit questionable why it's prevalent still, because I don't feel like anyone holds the truth about anything. Every soul has a perspective, and every person consecutively has a perspective and an agenda, to be honest. Everybody has an agenda. Everybody has their own soul path. Everybody has their own perspective of how they see things. And the healthiest thing that we can do is to see what the perspective of different people is, understand if that vibes well with us and makes us feel like expansive, makes us feel like we are learning something new, or we're expanding our awareness, or we are limiting it. And discern if that person speaks to us and what parts of their learnings and their wisdom and what they're saying is good for us and helps us expand, helps us feel more empowered. So my criteria would be that. What makes me feel more empowered? What makes me feel more expansive? Because there's a tendency for people to grab onto someone, especially the people that, to grab onto someone who looks and feels very confident, or looks and present themselves as knowing a lot. This is not necessarily untrue. There's a lot of people that know a lot of things. But when things go sideways is when we tend to consider them as all-knowing, omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient. And in a sense, we all are, but in the human perspective, no one holds every truth that is true for us. No one can hold everything that we need to know. And when we take our power and we give it to another person to tell us what is true and what isn't, and we believe them without asking questions, without thinking for ourselves, without having discernment, then we create some energies of victimization and negativity and disempowerment, because we are not using our own discernment to create empowerment to our own within ourselves. We give our power to someone else to tell us what we need to be doing, what we need to be believing, what we need to be acting upon. So we're losing the chance of creating more and more empowerment within ourselves. And every soul has, again, its own perspective. So there is a perspective, unique perspective, that we also bring into the world. And we're not all meant to be, healers, teachers, thoughts leaders, or people that share stuff into the world. But it's important for us to ask questions, really feel into our bodies how it makes us feel to listen to someone talk, okay? and never take everything someone says just for granted. And we all know how that has turned out so many times for humanity. When we put someone on a pedestal and we believe everything they say, and it becomes more of a religion, more of a dogmatic way of thinking than an empowering way of thinking. And it's funny how spiritual people usually don't like religion, but then they become religious themselves. So they find a person to become religious towards and to make them into a god outside of themselves that will tell them everything they know and will always give them the answers. And if whatever they say is true, no matter what. So when we become dogmatic, we lose perspective, we lose our own perspective, we lose our own power, we lose our own awareness, and we expect, instead of expanding, we're basically shrinking. And we are shrinking in a way that doesn't support or help in our expansion. One could argue that there's a lesson to learn in that too, of course. So there's nothing that is, ultimately, there's nothing shrinking us. There's always expansion, no matter what. But we can have a more intentional expansion other than being pushed to expand sometimes. That's what I'm trying to say here. So in this case, intentional expansion means doesn't mean that I don't listen to anyone. Doesn't mean I have my ears and my eyes closed to anything around me. It means I'm open to different perspectives. I question them and I take in whatever works for me at this point. Because as we expand, different things will be we will be open to different things and different truths. Because there's not only one truth, there's different perspectives again. And in the past, we could say that this idea of a guru, of a leader, a religious leader, spiritual leader, has been helpful for humanity, because we could say that we were not that open, or we couldn't access that much of information that we have now access to. From the internet, books, seminars, courses that we have access to universal wisdom we have access to through our spiritual practices. And as humanity is evolving in that sense, we have access to more and more perspectives. We can understand more and more things. So it's good to pick and choose what works for us. Not necessarily what feels good, but what feels expansive and empowering, okay? What feels good is not necessarily empowering. It can hold us into our limited perspective. So knowing what is empowering and what is expansive and what helps us create more, expand our awareness is crucial in this. Not fixating ourselves into one person that feels good or that we think they hold every truth out there. There's a lot of people that have so much self-confidence that they can talk about things that are completely inaccurate in such a confident way that they can convince people that that's the truth. It's interesting. So it's important to make sure we are connected to our body and our inner self and our intuition and our guidance system in order to know what's really true for us at this point in time and what isn't, what is empowering and what isn't, what we can hold as true from that we take from another person and what is not for now or doesn't make sense or makes us feel disempowered than empowered. Again, it's important to use discernment and not put anyone above yourself. This doesn't mean we don't respect other people. This doesn't mean we don't listen to other people. It doesn't mean that we're not open to hearing different perspectives. We are, without attachment, without this predisposed idea that they are true anyway. This is a pretty disempowering idea. And this comes as true for anyone, even if that anyone is not incarnated, like guides, teachers, or higher self, what we perceive as God. Sometimes we can be connecting to souls that hold a specific perspective that is not that empowering to us. We still need to keep an open eye and discernment and our intuition empowered in order to be able to understand what that means to us, if that's empowering and creating more self-awareness or not. Discernment is the key.